Hi, my name is Smriti. I am a part of the Chaos Engineering module at Harness. In this video, you will understand what Pod API block Chaos fault is, its use cases, how to execute it and configure it on a target application, and the consequences of injecting chaos into our target application. Pod API block is a Kubernetes pod level experiment that blocks specific API requests from reaching the server. When you request for a specific API, you will not receive a response for it. Suppose you have an application and pod API block is injected into it. If your application is gracefully able to redirect that API to a backup system, then it means your application is resilient. The pod API fault helps simulate scenarios to validate certain failover mechanisms or fallback mechanisms such as circuit breakers, retry logic, graceful degradation, and so on. Apart from this, it also checks if your system's overall functionality is intact when a specific service is unavailable or it is blocked. It also checks if the API calls are correctly configured for timeout settings and whether it can prevent resource hogging. Let us look at chaos in action. Ensure that some of the prerequisites are fulfilled. For example, you need to have Kubernetes version greater than 1.17 and ensure that the Kubernetes pods are healthy and functioning before and after chaos injection. Navigate to chaos experiments, click new experiment and provide a name and select the chaos infrastructure type. Click next. Select an environment, click next and select the infrastructure that you have created earlier. Click apply. Search for the pod API block, click on the fault. Let us start by configuring the target application. The application kind is deployment, namespace is boutique, and name refers to the name of the application, and in this case it is time chaos. Next, let's move to the tune fault modal. The total chaos duration is 60, the target service port is 80, the proxy port is 20,000, the network interface is H0, and the path filter is status. Here, the path filter refers to the API request path filter that is specified after the external URL where chaos injection is in action. Let us move to the probes modal. Select a HTTP probe and specify the URL as wttr.in, which is the weather application, and specify the method as get and the criteria as equals to and the response code is 200, and configure the properties with the timeout interval, attempt and polling interval as described. Save the experiment. When I specify the URL and the path filter as status, you will see that before chaos injection is in action, the URL is up and running. Click run. You can see the logs of the chaos experiment. You see that chaos is in action, that is the helper pod is running. You can navigate to the terminal and try to list the services. It will list all the services of the boutique application. Let us use the external IP of the time chaos, which is what we referenced in the target application modal as well while configuring the application. We shall use this URL along with the status path filter. You will see that the page is not loading because pod API block is in action and the URL along with the status path filter is blocking that specific API. Even after chaos, the URL is up and running. For more information on the tunables and configuring the pod API block chaos experiment, refer to the official documentation whose link is provided in the description box below. Thank you.